welcome to Do You Meme It, a lecture on the history, culture, and creation of memes. I want to start this out by saying this is a very incomplete and imperfect overview of meme culture, history, and creation, if only because if we went too in-depth, we would literally be here for quite some time. Because memes have been around for a long time. They have existed in a lot of different iterations, and yeah, I couldn't fit more than what we have today into this hour. So I'll go ahead and get started. All of the slides from today can be found here at this link. In these slides, I've embedded a lot of links to other resources, some books, articles, YouTube videos on the topic, as well as a few websites that I use to keep up with memes, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the presentation. But if you go to tinyurl.com/dll-memes, you can find these slides. And I'll have this up later if you don't get it written down right now. My name is Caitlin. I work at Central Library and I run the Digital Literacy Lab. I am teaching Tech Talks every Friday at noon from here to eternity, it probably seems like. So thank you for joining me today. If you have any questions, feel free to open up the chat at the bottom of your screen. That'll just get sent straight to me, and you can ask questions during the presentation, or if you have questions that I can follow up with you afterwards, that's great too. And if you have any questions and want to contact me later, if you registered for this class, you have my email address, and please feel free to reach out. We're going to talk about a lot of different things today, and I just wanted to give you a quick overview. First, we're going to talk about what is a meme, how people study memes, how they spread, and then we're also going to kind of look at the history of modern memes on the internet. And then the DIY section at the end is not actually as large today as I thought it would be, and I'll talk about why that is later. But the first thing we're going to talk about and answer together is the question, what is a meme? So meme, as defined by the Encyclopedia Britannica, is a unit of cultural information spread by imitation. The term meme is from the Greek word memema, meaning imitated, and was introduced in 1976 by Richard Dawkins in his book, The Selfish Gene. If you have heard of Richard Dawkins, it usually is in relation to atheism. He's kind of a big writer in that field, but he's got some earlier works that really talk about biology and in kind of an interesting way. So the word meme was a term that was coined by Richard Dawkins. When he first coined it in 1976, it looked very different than what it is today. We don't use the word meme in the same way that Richard Dawkins first used it in 1976 today. But he did later come back and say the computers in which memes live are human brains. And this is kind of a simplified way of saying memes are a thing that exists on the internet. That's mainly what we know them as today. But they kind of started person to person, just the sharing of ideas. There's actually a whole study, a field of study on memes. It's the field of memetics, which is the study of memes. So memetics sees ideas as kind of a virus, sometimes propagating in spite of myth and logic. Its maxim is beliefs that survive aren't necessarily true, rules that survive aren't necessarily fair, and rituals that survive aren't necessarily necessary. Things that survive do so because they are good at surviving. This is a 1999 definition from the Los Angeles Times that I found in Merriam-Webster. And basically, it's just the idea that memetics is the idea that ideas can spread, and memes are just ideas, essentially. So when talking practically about what a meme is, it can start as an idea. So there are some popular ideas, memes, that exist in this world that we know are not true. The earth is flat. I am sorry to say there is a whole part of the internet where you can find flat earthers, as they're called, who believe firmly that the earth is flat. The government is lying to you. Your science teacher lied to you. All of those drawings you've seen of the sphere that is the earth, completely fake. The idea that the earth is flat is a meme in that it is not true. but it is believed by so many and has spread all over, the world, the internet. Another meme that you probably have experienced recently, and I hope I'm not offending anybody right now. Forcing people to wear a mask is a violation of civil rights. We're going through COVID-19, a global pandemic, and health experts agree that wearing a mask is the easiest way to stop the spread of the virus person to person. But there are lots of people, especially here in America, where we're seeing an increase in COVID cases, and in Oklahoma, who believe that wearing a mask or being forced to wear a mask is a violation of their civil rights. They have beliefs like maybe it'll put more CO2 back in your face. All of these things are not backed up by law or science, but there are lots of people who believe them. Another idea that is a meme, red means stop. So when you drive your car and you come up to a stoplight, you know that green means go and that red means stop, and yellow to some means go faster, and to some it means slow down. But the idea that red means stop is a meme in that it's an idea that is widely accepted and shared, but is never probably put into, you probably have never studied, well, if you took driver's ed, you probably studied that red means stop, but it's an idea that we all have. It isn't necessarily tangible. It's a thing that we believe. A meme can be a tune. So a memetic tune is never going to give you up, never going to let you down, never going to turn around and desert you. If you recognize these words, you may recognize, you may have been rickrolled. A tune can definitely be a meme. If you are on TikTok, or if you have kids that are on TikTok, which don't know that I would recommend, it's owned by China, and there's some weird circulating articles about how China has all of your information. Conspiracy, privacy stuff. But there are tunes on TikTok that have been going viral lately. If you get onto Spotify and open up a TikTok playlist, you'll find hundreds of songs that people know all over the world. Usually they only know like a viral 10 to 60 seconds of the song because the sound clips are used in popular videos. So music can absolutely be used and spread virally and can be a meme. I'm not going to rickroll you here, but if you are unfamiliar with being rickrolled, I've embedded the video for your later viewing. If you're unfamiliar with rickrolling, essentially it's where if you I think I got rickrolled at graduation. The band started playing the song that they play at graduations. I don't remember the name. I'm sorry about that. And halfway through their song, Pomp and Circumstance, that's what it is. Halfway through Pomp and Circumstance, they rickrolled us and started playing Never Gonna Give You Up. So that's considered being rickrolled, and it was a popular thing to do back in the day, and I think it's still popular today. But that's what rickrolling is. It can also be a catchphrase. So, there are probably lots of catchphrases that you use pretty regularly in your vernacular. I was born in 1990. A lot of the kids that I grew up watched SpongeBob, and I did not watch SpongeBob. And there are lots of phrases that people my age throw around to each other that I'm familiar with, despite having not seen the source material, in large part because memetically they spread and were just part of our vernacular. Some catchphrases that you've probably heard: survival of the fittest. So natural selection. It's something that we use in pretty common language. COVID-19, survival of the fittest is a terrible idea. I do not condone that way of thinking in regards to stopping the spread of COVID-19. I'm sorry I keep talking about this. I just think about it a lot. But there's some other phrases like, "What you talking about, Willis?" or "You're fired" from Donald Trump's The Apprentice that, when said out of context, people usually know the phrase itself. So literally could name catchphrases for days, but those are considered memetic in that they spread. Another way of looking at memes, it could be slang. 2020, there is lots of slang that I don't know that is used popularly, with teens, tweens, even adults, but some ones that I use pretty regularly: extra, low key, high key, slay, spill the tea. If you have not heard these words, you would not understand what they mean when they are presented in a sentence. But if you're on certain parts of the internet where people spill the tea, means to gossip, you know, I can go to a friend, say spill the tea, and she knows what I'm talking about. So words that go viral are considered a meme in a way. It can also be an image, and probably the phrase when you think of a meme, you probably generally think of some sort of still image that has text or some sort of a company feeling that when you look at it, you'll think it's relatable, you'll think it's funny, you'll think it's kind of cringy. This is actually a picture from a graphic novel that I'm halfway through. I haven't quite finished it yet, called Memetic. And in the story, there is a meme that goes viral and overtakes the entire world. Anybody who looks at the meme exactly 24 hours later turns into a zombie and starts killing people. It's a pretty dramatic story. And this is the meme that starts it all. I'm sorry if anything happens to you in 24 hours. I was okay after 24 hours, but I can't promise that you will be. Please don't sue the library. Thank you. But in this story, they had a really great way of talking about memes that I actually wanted to share with you all because I really enjoyed it. So a meme is just an idea. It's a piece of information that spreads from person to person. Evolutionary memetics describe how human beings take helpful pieces of information and spread them to help further our species, like how to build a fire or speak a common language. There's a panel I took out here where it described that, you know, today memes are usually images, songs, or jokes that we share between each other on the internet. Sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're not. But this was a good example of a meme or a memetic idea that spread. Rodney King, she asked, do you remember Rodney King? He said, is that a joke? Of course I do. And she replied, all it took was a single piece of information, those officers being acquitted, sped by phone and media to incite major riots. So, you know, we're going through an interesting time in 2020, back when George Floyd was murdered last month. Black Lives Matter activists and, you know, people who were not previously Black Lives Matter activists really mobilized and started protests across the country. And it really was incited in large part by George Floyd, in addition to years and years of police brutality and oppression. And, you know, the memetic idea is that police brutality towards Blacks is not okay. And that took off, and now we have protests across the country, even here in Tulsa. So memes are not just the thing you see on the internet. It's really any idea that spreads across the world. The internet was so new then, and on a popular scale at least, it didn't play a hand in the destruction that week, but I remember looking at my account on AOL and feeling a shiver run down my spine. The idea of how quickly a destructive idea could spread through those chat rooms and email systems dispersed to everyone with a computer in a matter of hours, and that was before social media in any real sense, the core of which is spreading information, spreading memes. So we're going to talk a little bit today about the history of how memes spread. Briefly, I was not around for a lot of it. I do remember some popular memes from the 90s, but I wasn't there for the ones in the 80s. And really the way that we spread memes, or the way that we define them today, has changed a lot in the last few decades. So the memes can spread any number of ways. They can spread word of mouth. You know, if there's kind of a joke, there's like a format of a joke going around the internet right now. I wish I had written it down before I tried to share it with you all. But one example of it is librarians be like, I have a book, and then give you a list of 20 item list with annotations. And that's kind of a joke format. You know, that's a format that I could tell somebody, or if I were to share something word of mouth to a friend, and she shares it with a friend and they share it with another friend, word of mouth. You all know what that means. I don't know why I went into so much detail. Person to person. So I, you know, if I find a funny picture, I will immediately send it to my sister and my two best friends because I think they will also enjoy it. But memes are primarily spread person to person, usually via text, email, instant message, any sort of number of ways. Popular memes these days usually start out on kind of more obscure parts of the internet like Reddit or 4chan. I usually can't recommend 4chan as a place to go spend your time, but Reddit has some pretty popular meme subreddits. If you're not familiar with Reddit, it's kind of a social networking / message board site, and they have subreddits where there are particular topics that they discuss. So dank memes is one of them. There's even a coronavirus memes that was created back in January 2020, which again, I can't always recommend going to because some of them are pretty offensive, but if you need a good laugh about coronavirus, I'm sorry, probably not something to share. Coronavirus memes on Reddit is a good place to look for those types of memes, but they have all sorts of meme subcategories that you can find in Reddit. Another way that memes spread pretty popularly is through Instagram. In particular, teenagers and tweens have Instagram accounts, and usually to hide the fact that they have Instagram meme accounts, maybe if their parents are looking at their page, they'll put like a normal picture. If you're unfamiliar with Instagram, you can actually upload pictures in batches of 10. So the thing that a lot of teens do is they'll put a picture you know, of something from their life, like them playing golf or whatever it is that teens do. I clearly am out of touch with teens. On the first slide, and then the next few photos will be memes that they enjoy. There are also lots of popular meme accounts. Here is sarcasm only, how it feels when you actually shower, eat breakfast, and get to work on time, excitedly holding trophies. Usually memes are pretty relatable when you see them, and this is a pretty common format for a meme, a picture with text above that you understand immediately what image or what feeling they're trying to convey here. And then another popular way that memetic ideas are spreading these days is through TikTok. So back, I think, oh my gosh, my cat's about to get loud, I'm sorry. Okay, my roommate's out of town and the cat is missing her. So TikTok, you can find lots of viral content. If you have seen anybody do the Renegade dance, it kind of gained its popularity on TikTok. And TikTok is just, you know, micro videos, so usually 60-second or less videos that are shared. But lots of things are shared through TikTok these days. And a lot of songs become popular through TikTok, so definitely a popular way to find some good memes. And then really, memes just kind of spread everywhere. YouTube, email, if you can think it, it happens there. As I'm sure you were all aware, if you were taking this class, you've probably seen them just about everywhere. So what was the first meme? There is no good answer to this. And anything I tell you would be a lie because who knows what the first meme was. But some ideas about the first meme were maybe mimicry. So before language existed, before we had a way to write or speak to each other, or human language existed, I should say, people had ways of communicating with each other. Birds had ways of communicating with each other. So birds share ideas memetically, usually through mimicry. So they'll make a bird sound, and then another bird will make that sound back at them. And now we even have machines that can imitate bird sounds, or people can imitate bird sounds themselves. But there's lots of ways to mimicry. Yeah. So first meme, it could have been a bird song for all we know. The first meme could have been science. So ideas like the Earth being round, a fact that we all hopefully know together, is that the Earth is round and that it circles around the sun. That is an idea that is widely spread, widely supported by science. And, you know, who knows, maybe it was the first meme. An OG meme could be religion. So, you know, the idea that there is a God and he has they have a certain set of rules, and we all have to follow those rules, and here's text for this religion. And it was widely shared in that culture and became the truth for that group of people. You know, if you've looked at religion at all, there's literally thousands of them. And religion could have been the first meme, who knows. Here is a picture of George Washington. I'm sure if I had just given you this portrait without context, cat. I'm sorry, I'm gonna block the cat out of the room really quick. He gets very loud. So if I had shown you this picture or this portrait without telling you who it was, you probably would have figured out that it was George Washington. This is not actually what George Washington looked like. This is a recreation of a smaller portrait of George Washington, but this is what we believe George Washington looks like and what widely we accept George Washington to have looked like. So maybe it was the first meme, who knows? And then of course there's chain letters. You know, back when photocopiers were first created, people would create chain letters where I'm going to send you this letter and you have to forward it to 10 people or else this thing will happen. When email became popularized, chain letters had to come back. When text messaging was popularized, chain letters had to come back. On Facebook, I would say chain letters are a thing again. You'll see some like really long texty meme and at the bottom it says, copy and share if you agree. Any one of these is considered an iteration of a chain letter or a viral letter of some sort. And they've really stuck around for a very long time, I have to say, to this day. So kind of looking at the history of memes through the days, I found this really great video on the evolution of memes by a YouTuber called Wavy Web Surf, which I've linked in these slides. But he kind of broke down memes into a few different eras. I have edited this a little bit to fit some of the memes that I wanted to include. He actually started the pre-Membrian era at 2000. I went ahead and started it back in 1980. So from 1980 to 2010-ish, we have the pre-Membrian era. And it starts out with the dial-up days. So back before we had broadband, we had computers that made these really loud noises when they connected to the internet. On those computers, you could email, you could get on message boards, instant messages, flash animation sites, and primarily back in dial-up days. And I say like this was a common time for me. I was very young during dial-up days and really probably only played Oregon Trail when dial-up was a thing, or instant messaged my friends. I didn't have it for very long. So memes were primarily shared through these ways, which made them a lot more niche in the pre-Membrian era. Message boards, usually people are on message boards that have like some sort of niche interest. Instant messaging made stuff pretty niche in that you only really had your contacts to share stuff with. And then flash animation sites, again, I'm not super familiar with flash animation sites, but they're kind of like YouTube, but old school YouTube, where people would upload flash animation videos. So back in the 1980s, one of the first popular meme things on the internet was Leetspeak. So Leetspeak is the way that you can communicate with people, but you change letters over to numbers. So here's a phrase, and I actually translated this with a Leetspeak translator. So I'm going to try to read it back, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to. It's hard to fit the entire history of memes into 1 hour. Leetspeak was popular about 35 years ago. That was very hard to translate back, but Leetspeak used to be a thing that people did. And you'll kind of see Leetspeak today still in the way that we make passwords a lot of the time. Or if you ever get onto like gaming websites or onto like something like Steam, you'll notice that a lot of people use Leetspeak in their handles. So my brother's handle back when he was a competitive player was Boom to You. And for all of the O's in his handle, he used zeros instead of O's. So pretty popular and something that we still see around a lot today. Back in 1996, one of the first viral, or one of the more popular viral memes was the dancing baby. It's a creepy little animation, and one that if you have seen previously, you will recognize it from here to eternity. But it went wild. I don't really get it, but you know, it is an example of one of those flash animations, or one of those short animations that went really popular. Another really popular meme was "All Your Base Are Belong to Us." "All Your Base Are Belong to Us" was a video game that was translated over into English, and whenever it was translated, the translation was just terrible. Somebody made this video, uploaded it to a website. There used to be a website, I think it was just allyourbase.belongtous.com or something like that, and you could go watch the entirety of this video because it is a couple minutes long. You can find it on YouTube if you haven't seen it. But in '98, it went viral. There were lots of images and videos shared from it, and lots of adaptations of this video were made with, like, I think I saw one that used a bunch of clips together. Anyway, if you haven't seen it, go take a look at it. It's a funny video, and if you remember, if you ever saw it in '98, it's something that you can still recall today in 2020. In 1998, we kind of saw the rise of demotivational posters. So demotivational posters are those posters that you used to see in offices, like if you went to like your school counselor, it had like a kitten hanging on a tree limb and it says, "Hang in there." Were considered motivational posters. Demotivation posters took that kind of format and turned it on its head a little bit. So here we have potential. Not everyone gets to be an astronaut when they grow up. Maybe you can make fries instead. They have been around for a while, and this actually was kind of the start of a really popular meme style that we use today that I'll talk about later. But you know, this is just like a smattering of some of the memes that came out during this time. Literally could spend hours and hours and hours hitting on all the highlights. Another one that kind of came early in the 2000s was the Numa Numa video. This was uploaded to a video hosting site, kind of pre-YouTube, and it's a guy lip syncing to a Swedish song. And again, if you saw this in 2004, you can exactly picture this or hear this song in your head and remember this video. But widely shared, widely popular, and one of the earlier viral videos that existed in the PreMe brain era. As we start getting later into the 2000s, the landscape of where memes are shared changes a bit. In 2000, I want to say mid-2000s, sites like 4chan, Reddit, and YouTube kind of come onto the scene. 4chan and Reddit looked very different back in the mid-2000s than they look today. But the creation of these sites, and especially the creation of YouTube, really is what changed the landscape of internet memes that we know today, in large part because YouTube and its popularity made it a lot easier for people to upload, create videos, and share them virally because they were in a more localized spot. So moving into the meme brain era, we have 2010 to 2014-ish. The meme brain era was a time when memes were more widely shared. Social networking sites kind of came onto the scene in the early 2000s, or the late 2000s, late aughts, I always forget the term. But once we get into 2010s, more people are on social networking sites. Sites like Facebook, Twitter were around back in 2010, and people are using them pretty heavily. So when we get into this era is when we really see the image macro. The image macro is, and you have definitely seen this format before, but essentially it's an image, usually a colorful background, and then you have text at the top or bottom. This image macro is the success kid, so it's a kid given a successful I succeeded fist. Sorry, I'm so thirsty right now. So the success kid sees a nickel on the ground, but it's actually a silver dollar. Success. He doesn't know a question on a test, but the answer is answered in another question. Success. I went to go pick up my 3 books that I had on hold at the library using our curbside delivery, but they gave me 5 instead. Success. If you haven't heard of our curbside deliveries process, it's a thing. I'll talk about it at the end because I want more people to use it. But the Success Kid was a pretty popular format that people still use today because the kid giving Success Fist is adorable and relatable. But image macros, you know, just this image with the text at the top and bottom, when these kind of came into being is when we saw memes get a lot more popular. In the meme brain era, we can attribute, according to this video I watched that I really enjoyed and kind of believe, he suspects that memes became more popular due to the ease of creation. So this image macro, where you're literally just superimposing text on top of a picture, pretty easy to create. Lots of tools start popping up to create these, but if you have, you know, Microsoft Paint, you can do these things pretty easily. And then he also attributed it to Facebook. So Facebook, in its heyday, it might still be in its heyday, I don't know. Everybody was on Facebook at a certain point. Your mom, your cousin, your schoolmates, literally everybody. If you were not included in that, I'm sorry for leaving you out, but most people were on Facebook. But the ease of creating memes and then the ease of sharing them on Facebook really made memes a lot more popular, and it brought them kind of out of the shadows of the obscure message boards of like kind of the nerd culture into popular culture. In the video, he called them out to the normies, or the normal people of the world. With this popularity of memes, we kind of get into an interesting full circle idea of natural selection of memes. So the idea that memes gaining popularity means that more memes are being made. When there are more memes made, memes are becoming stale faster. So stale means they're not as interesting. People don't really want to, they're kind of dead in the water at that point. So when there are more memes, there's more content to look at and stuff becomes stale faster. Stale memes means that people are making faster, making more memes. And at that point, we have a rate of creation of our memes that has increased a lot. So rather than, I'm going to make up some arbitrary 300 people making memes, now there are 3,000 people making memes. I have made several memes this week for the library, just, on a normal week. Everybody makes memes. And with our natural selection, that means the weak memes don't survive and they don't circulate that much. So moving on from the Membrian era, at the end of 2014 into 2015, we get the dank Membrian era. If you are not familiar with the word dank, it is hard to describe, but the word dank to me means super cool-ish. I don't know how to describe it, but so we have the dank Membrian era, which is from 2015 to maybe infinity. Maybe we'll see the end of this era when all of our power systems go down and we don't have the internet anymore. Who knows? But it's kind of described as the golden age of memes, the pinnacle of memes. And really, it's the time that memes have come out in full force because they are completely synchronized in with our social media sites. And that, I mean, Instagram became wildly popular and is a place where they are shared very heavily. Facebook, you can't log on to Facebook and scroll more than a couple scrolls without seeing several memes. Twitter, wildly popular there. TikTok, I could literally name any social networking site and you will find a whole lot of memes there. In the dank Membrian era, I'm not going to go too far into types of memes that exist because a lot of them I found were very niche and I didn't think all that appropriate to share with you all. But in the dank Membrian era, a lot of the memes that kind of circulate most popularly, we consider super memes. So memes that get widely circulated You know, maybe on Facebook, you know, if my mom shows me a meme, that means I have seen it for at least 3 months already. And if it made it all the way to my mom, I would consider that a super meme. Super memes, when they kind of die down, usually at the 3-month mark after my mom's shown it to me, people start remixing the meme and sharing it again. And at that point, it becomes stale and kind of unused until maybe somebody comes back and remixes it in a different way. So here's a pretty popular meme that format that a lot of people have probably seen, came around in 2017. We have the distracted boyfriend meme. So if you have ever looked through stock photo imagery, I definitely suggest it as a fun pastime because there's some really weird stuff in there. But the distracted boyfriend was just a photo out of a photo set that somebody saw and thought was hilarious. And the format that people use for this distracted boyfriend meme, they have the boyfriend attributed to somebody. So in this one we have me. The girlfriend that he's holding hands with is scientific evidence supporting the dangers of staring at the sun. And the boyfriend is looking at the solar eclipse. So back in 2017, you guys remember the super fun, was that 2017? I think it was. There was a big solar eclipse that we all went outside and looked through our little glasses up into the sun. If you didn't have glasses, maybe you looked at it anyway. But this is a pretty popular format. I've made library memes using this format, and it's pretty easy to make. I would consider this a super meme because my mom showed me one. But a remix that kind of came out after the distracted boyfriend had died a bit, people started recreating the meme, either with like their own images that they edited together, or they recreated it, taking pictures of themselves into the meme. Here we have Keanu Reeves with a gun pointed at his head, staring at a woman in a red dress. There's probably some context I am missing here because I don't really know what this is about. But I would consider this a remix of the distracted boyfriend meme. But distracted boyfriend is kind of stale. We have lots of different memes out today. So at this point, I am going to make a disclaimer. I have a few sites that I wanted to recommend to you all if you are looking to make your own memes at home or at work. My disclaimer is I may click on one of these links and we may see something inappropriate together, and I apologize for that. These websites have some weird stuff sometimes, but we're going to go ahead and do this together. And again, please don't get mad if something weird pops up. So Meme Generator is a pretty popular website that has been around for a while, but basically you can pick from popular meme styles and then add your own text to it. So pretty popular, let's see here, I'm going to go to caption and image, and here we have the Giving Oprah. So if you have seen Oprah giving things to people, there's a video of her giving out, I think, cars to people, where she goes like, you get a car and you get a car, everybody gets a car. That's probably where this came from. A meme that came, a video meme that came out of this is as Oprah giving everybody bees, and like the screen drops and then a bunch of bees come out into the audience and people are screaming. This is the Giving Oprah image, and here I can go ahead and say books for everyone. You get a book. You get a book. Everyone gets a book at TCCL. And I can just, you know, add my text in there, hit generate, and it'll give me at the end a nice little, maybe. Now, it's not going to work for me today for whatever reason. I'm probably missing something really obvious, but Meme Generator, it's super easy to use. They have lots of meme formats on here, and then you can also browse and see memes that other people have made. But I will say, be cautious. There's some weird stuff on the internet, as I'm sure you're all aware. Moving on from the Meme Generator, we have QuickMe. And this is what I was afraid of. I'm going to go ahead and close out of that. But QuickMe is works in quite the same way. They have memes that you can grab and reuse yourself. So somebody asked about copyright issues. I actually didn't touch on copyright issues at all in this presentation, in large part because copyright exists, but not quite in meme culture. Typically, if there is something that is copyrighted, I will not share it professionally. If I create something, I will not share it to the library's Facebook page, but I will, make it and text it to my friends. Copyright and memes is like a very in-depth question, and I would be happy to find a good article on it for you because people have written pretty extensively on the topic. But usually people are not very litigious when it comes to meme sharing, in large part because they're so viral and there's kind of no way to contain it. So great question on the copyright. I like that people are thinking about copyright. It's definitely something you should pay attention to. And as far as using these tools, these websites usually have their copyright disclaimer and then kind of wash their hands of it. So if you make stuff, just know that copyright is a thing that exists. Don't always share it professionally. That's my one tip for you. Imgur is another popular website. And again, I'm not going to click on these because they're such dangerous websites. You never know what's going to pop up. But one tool that I use pretty heavily myself is Canva. So Canva is a free online web design tool. And it's pretty easy to create stuff. You can just go create a design. I'm just going to pick a Facebook post because it'll give me kind of the square. But you can search templates and you can search meme templates, and they'll usually come up with some like kind of different formats. But if you just wanted to come in here and say I had an Oprah picture, which I don't, but I'm just going to find a picture of a forest, pop it in here. I was kind of hoping it would do the whole screen thing. I'm going to add a background and then try to add my forest to see if that works. There we go. Okay, so here I have my forest, and if I want to go ahead and add text, I can just add my text in here and add I'm not very good at making memes, so I'm just gonna do it. Spends all day in her bedroom / office because quarantine. And I can do some things here to make this a little easier to read. I didn't pick a very good background, but you get the idea. Once you have images that you want to add text to, it's pretty easy to get them in here, add your own text. Wishes she were here instead, here being the forest. So here is a very bad meme that I just made using Canva. Again, if you have photos that you want to use, a good example of a time that I would use Canva, make a lot of political memes that I won't share with you all, but they're usually local political memes. So I'll take a picture of something and then add a caption, and Canva is a really good place to do that. Some other really great tools if you are looking to make your own memes, but maybe you don't want to use some of the sketchier websites. PowerPoint is a really great photo editing tool. My friend Ellen, who I work with, and I think she taught the Google class last week. So if you came to the Google Cloud class last week, you've met Ellen. But she swears by PowerPoint up and down and uses it as a video editor. With PowerPoint, you can pretty easily remove backgrounds from images, which is really handy. You can also paste things on there and then export it into shareable files, either as a JPEG, a PNG, or you can take a screenshot of a slide that you've created. Another good tool, Google Slides. If you are on a computer that doesn't have PowerPoint, Google Slides is another great tool to pull up. It's just slides.google.com. All you need is a Google account to log into it. And then another tool that I use pretty heavily to make stuff is just Microsoft Paint, which I have on, you know, most of my computers. So if you want to make a meme, there is a way, and there are lots of tools. I didn't go into any meme making tools for mobile. So if you have like an iPad or an iPhone or a smartphone of some sort, if you go to your Play Store or your App Store and search meme creator, there's literally hundreds of them. Some things to look out for when you're downloading a meme creator app of some sort. Look at their privacy policy, make sure they don't have anything shady in there, and then look at what permissions they're asking for. I generally don't use apps to create stuff, and if I do, I use the Canva app or just my native photo editing tool that exists on my phone. So those are some good tools if you're looking to create your own memes. But a question I get from a lot of people, especially those with teenagers, could be teachers who work with teenagers, or just parents, is how do you keep up with the language that your kids are using or the memes that you see on the internet? And there are some good places to do that. Like I said earlier, Reddit has some really good I say really good. On Reddit exist subreddits, and there you can find lots of different niche things to learn more about or see what other people are posting. A website that I use pretty heavily, especially when I see something that I don't really understand, is Know Your Meme. Know Your Meme is a website that is basically a dictionary of memes, where you can just search for anything and it'll give you the history. So earlier I told you about the Numa Numa video. If you go to Know Your Meme, you can search for it and it'll show you some of the history. It came out in 2004. It was a viral video, and it was posted to Newgrounds, was the website it was first posted to. So this website has a lot of ads on it. They have to make their money somehow, but I like Know Your Meme, especially if I am trying to understand a meme that I am looking at. Because sometimes people create memes and I have just no idea what I'm looking at. So somebody was asking how you can look up a meme on Know Your Meme. So if you go to Know Your Meme database, they have the search the database up here at the top. And then you can also kind of just browse memes. If you just scroll down the page, which again, I'm not going to do in mixed company because sometimes some weird stuff pops up. You can just scroll through and see, you know, kind of what's popular. They even have like trending topics up here. So it's just kind of it's a shady database, but it's a database that exists to look at memes. And if you're searching for memes, that's a good question. So somebody asked, when you're searching for memes, how do you know what to search for? So there's actually a couple of different ways that you can do that. If you're using Know Your Meme, you can try to describe what you see in the meme. So if we went back and we wanted to search for this distracted boyfriend meme, we could search woman or man looking at another woman, and the distracted boyfriend meme would come up in that search. If you're looking at a picture and you don't quite know what it is you're looking at, there is another thing that you can search, and we're going to go to Google Images. So I'm just going to go to Google Images and do a reverse search. So with a reverse search, let me download so I'm just going to go ahead and download this really quick so I can show you. With reverse search Google, or Google Images reverse search, if you go to, and let me recreate that for you really quick, go to google.com, you can go images up here in the corner, and then if you hit this camera button, you can upload an image. So I'm just going to upload the one I just downloaded. And reverse search is going to find where this photo exists on the internet. So here, the thing that pops up is a Wikipedia page and the Know Your Meme and you can just open it up and learn a little more about the meme, where it came from, how it started. They even have a reception section on here. Not every meme is so popular to have a Wikipedia page, but those are some good ways to find the memes that you're looking for. And then another tip is if you just ask somebody that you know who uses the internet more regularly. I have lots of people who send me strange emails at the library asking me questions about stuff, so I'm always happy to help. Or if you have a trusty, niece or nephew in your life that you can talk to about these things, would recommend that. Another good place to keep up with memes is Instagram. And in this slide, I've actually linked to an article about the 25 best meme accounts on Instagram. It's just a list of some popular meme accounts. But again, if you have a particular interest, there's usually a meme account that is particular to your interest. So, if you speak Spanish, you can find Spanish-speaking meme accounts. If you were super into communism, there's like communist meme accounts. There's a little bit of everything for everybody. And then of course there's the youths. So a good way to keep up is just talk to people who are into memes or use them regularly, or at least follow them on social media, and you'll come across stuff more often. My other answer is, or don't keep up with memes. This is an excerpt from an article I read called The Information, The History of Theory of Flood by James Gleick. And I just wanted to read it to you all because I thought it was an interesting ending for our conversation today. But we are aware of the many species of information. We name their types sardonically as though to reassure ourselves that we understand urban myths and zombie lies. We keep them alive in air-conditioned server farms, but we cannot own them. When a jingle lingers in our ears, or a fad turns upside down, or a hoax dominates the global chatter for months and vanishes as swiftly as it came, who is master and who is slave? James Gleick, who writes a lot on information and memetics, the way that he has described information and the way it's shared virally, I thought was really interesting. But if you want to keep up with memes, here are some practical ways that you can do it. But also my advice is maybe just don't, if you don't want to, that's okay too. I run the social media account for Central Library in conjunction with a few of my other coworkers. I'm on the internet a lot, so usually if I see something that gets really popular, I'll try to make a library version of it and share it to our Facebook page. And that's something I do fairly regularly. So if you have, maybe a job where you're trying to keep up more with trends, there's some good ways to do that. But if you don't have to do that, just maybe don't. If you want to learn more about memes, the history of memes, culture of memes, these are some really great resources that I enjoyed whenever I was making this presentation today. A lot of this stuff on memetics, if the Smithsonian put out a really great article called What Defines a Meme that really goes a lot further into Richard Dawkins' definition of a meme and kind of the history of memetics that I found super interesting. I would definitely recommend you read. It took me probably 20 minutes to get through. The Verge also has a really great story of the internet that kind of looks at the history of internet memes. And then the video that I watched that talked about the different meme-brian eras was by a YouTuber called Wavy Web Surf that I super enjoyed and would also recommend. There's also a couple of books out that you can get with your Tulsa City-County Library card. Gretchen McCulloch put out a book, I think it came out last year or the year before, called Because Internet, where it talks a lot about how our culture has changed because of the internet, how our language has changed, and talks a lot about memes. And then, of course, the graphic novel that I shared a few panels from earlier in the presentation was a book called Memetic. Like I said, I'm only halfway through it, and you can only get it on Freeting, which is not my favorite library platform. But it's been a really interesting read so far. It is a little violent though, so if you don't like violent graphic novels, would not recommend. You can find all of these slides today where I include links to all of the resources we talked about as well as all of the memes that I shared, linked to Know Your Meme database at this link here. But thank you so much for attending today. If you have any questions, I will be around for a bit longer. Feel free to throw them up in the chat. But again, thank you for coming. Next week, we are going to be talking about, I should have looked this up before. So next Friday at noon, we are going to have a class on iMovie and are specifically going to look at creating video for the web. So a little bit of video editing, a little bit of how to with equipment and lighting, and just some things that you'll want to consider when you're making videos. And as I mentioned earlier in this chat, we have a few library services. I don't know if you have checked your email recently from the library. We have pushed back our opening date for the in-person services indefinitely, or until further notice. You know, the rising COVID-19 cases in Tulsa County is pretty concerning to library leadership. So they have pushed back our opening to the public until further notice. But we do have some services that are available today. We have curbside delivery. So if you put books on hold, you can go to any library in town and they have a sign outside. Once the books are available and on the hold shelf, you'll get notified and you can call the library and we will bring them out to your card. You can also get a lot of online materials, including free ebooks, audiobooks, music, movies, all sorts of things. If you have questions about those, please feel free to ask me. You can email, call, or message me on here. I think that's everything. Like I said, I'm kind of bummed we're not opening on Monday, but I'm also very glad we're not opening on Monday. As of right now, we have 0 cases of COVID with our library staff, which I think is pretty impressive because we have like over 400 staff that work for the library. So we had somebody who commented that she enjoyed this. She's 76 and always wants to keep up with the kids. Yeah, I mean, it can be really hard to keep up with the kids. I work a lot with teenagers, and sometimes they wear shirts that say Taco Cat, and I really have no idea why they're wearing a Taco Cat shirt. So it can be hard to keep up, but hopefully these are some good resources that will help you with that. But again, thank you all for coming today, and I will be around for a bit longer if you have any questions.